All right, and we're live. Um, Happy afternoon, everyone, and Monday. It is Betsy Pilon here from Eaton Academy. I'm the Director of Public Relations, and today for our Lunch and Learn series, I'm happy to welcome Patty Rafis, who is not only one of our middle school teachers, but she's also our educational technology coordinator for the entire school. So welcome, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you, Betsy. Hello, everyone, wherever you are. Like Betsy said, I am the Ed Tech Director for Eaton, so I do spend a lot of time thinking about technology, and I think a lot about the promise of technology, the opportunities that it affords, but also about the challenges. So we're going to talk about a little bit of both today, and also because we are in this really unusual time where we're doing so much using technology. We're learning via technology, teaching, working, socializing. That just adds another layer. So I think this is a really timely topic, and I thank Betsy for asking me here today. This is really cool. So what I'd like to do is just a few things, and then hopefully we can have a nice conversation. But I just want to lay out sort of how we look at technology at Eaton and sort of through the lens of a school. And then think about how we can work together as families and as a school to create some healthy habits around technology, some balance for our kids and for us, even during this crazy time when so much of what we're doing is dependent on technology. So at Eaton, and really at most schools, the goals of tech integration basically have to do with moving kids forward as fast and as effectively as possible. So individualizing the way that we teach, making sure that kids are really engaged and involved in what they're doing, giving them some authentic and meaningful and relevant experiences that will help them succeed in the real world. Those are all things that technology can really help with. And those are really some of our major goals. Also, we want to equip kids with those skills that they're going to need to succeed in the 21st century, things like critical thinking, collaboration, being able to be creative and bring creativity to whatever they do, information, technology, and media literacy. So being able to use all of this information that is available to them in a way that is thoughtful and purposeful and safe. And also digital citizenship. You know, how do you really show up online as a person? Just like we teach kids how to show up in person in life, we want them to show up as their best selves when they're dealing with technology and interacting with people on the internet. And then finally, life skills and career skills that are going to help them be successful. So when I am working in my role as a tech director at Eaton, this is the lens that I'm looking at things through. So it's a little bit different than my lens maybe as a parent or as an individual user of technology, but I think especially now that we're blending all of these things together at home, it's worth thinking about how to create balance. So we're using tech for all these amazing things, but how do we really, when our kids are learning at home, use that technology effectively for learning, but also create healthy balance? So when you're thinking about using technology at home to promote your kids' learning, and many of you, I'm sure, have already done this, but I really encourage parents to think about creating a productive digital workspace for your child. Most of you probably have a spot in your house where your kids are doing their work, but think about what their digital workspace looks like as well. Are they getting lots of notifications on their device for things that have nothing to do with school? Are there temptations like games and social media apps and things like that on their device that they're using for school that might be distracting? So those are things, especially if your child has attention issues, that you might want to take a look at in terms of creating a good digital workspace for them to work. Also, just in terms of where in your house they're working, if you can find a place that's quiet, obviously, but not too private, that helps them too. If they know that you're going to be walking behind them and taking a glance at what's on their screen, it might help them to stay more focused as they're working on their work. And also we always, and this has been covered, I think, in other lunch and learns and other contexts, but really like creating a delineation between work time and not work time. So this is the time you're engaged in school. And then when that's finished, we're moving away from school and not letting those lines get blurred in either direction can cause an imbalance. You know, and in general, I think when we're thinking about balance and technology, it's important to think about what kids are doing with their technology. So I feel like as a parent, when my kids were younger, they're in college now, but when they were younger, I used to think a lot in terms of screen time, like how many minutes of screen time there are. But I've come to really understand that not all screen time is created equal. So thinking about, are your kids creating things using technology, or are they just consuming? Like creating a balance with that. You know, are they connecting with other people, especially now when it's so hard to connect with people in person? Sometimes, you know, the screen time that's being used for connection can be really positive. So be you think, is this a solitary activity, or are they connecting with others? When and where are they, you know, doing this connecting? Is it when they could be doing something else that's more productive or more healthy, or is this really a good time for them to be using technology? And then if they're using technology, what aren't they doing? So are they getting enough physical exercise? Are they being able to, especially younger children, manipulate objects with their hands and develop those sensory motor skills? Are they, again, interacting with others? Although now, if they're interacting, they're probably interacting electronically unless they're interacting with you. And also just, are they using that technology as a substitute for other strategies to help to calm down or to have some true downtime? So when you're thinking through screen time, I would encourage you to really think about how the screen is being used, and also what are the opportunity costs. So what are they not doing when they are using technology? And this is not easy. It's very hard, especially when your kids get to be middle school age and older. You know, I think a lot of us feel like we're in a battle against the screen. And there are really good reasons for that. You know, this is really the water that our kids are swimming in. And especially now that so much of social interaction is online, everyone really is doing it. So there's this fear of missing out. Also, it's important to understand that, you know, apps and social media sites really are designed to get us engaged and keep us engaged. So, and also games. You know, I mean, I think we've all fought that battle with our kids, 5 more minutes and then you have to be done. Well, I can't stop the game now because I'm in this whatever. So, because that's the way the game is designed. The game is designed to keep kids engaged. So when you're armed with that information and you're sort of making a plan for your kids, it makes it a little easier to understand where they're coming from. And it's not that they're battling against you, it's just that all of these forces are sort of acting against them disengaging from the screen. So there's lots of things that you can do. I think really thinking proactively ahead of time, like I said, making a plan, thinking about how your kids are using technology and where and when is really important. And a plan that really fits your family, what your family values are, what your schedule's like. You know, that's really important to sit down and really be conscious about that, so you're not reacting or just responding to situations that make you feel uncomfortable. If you're really thinking about designing a plan that's important, being calm and consistent about it is really important, and like walking the walk. So I think for some of us, like I know for me, when I'm at work during the day, my phone has to be away from me because I will pick it up and look at it, and really like modeling that for your kids. Like, this is how I'm setting up my life so that I'm, you know, I have that kind of balance as well as I'm asking you to have. And, you know, in terms of nuts and bolts, there are lots of different parental control apps and capabilities for different devices that you can employ to kind of limit or, like I said, create that delineation between the time when kids are engaging with technology and the time when they're not. So if you'd like, we can talk about some of those specifics as well. But I guess I'm just wondering what you're dealing with, what's working for you at home, what you're struggling with. Are there any things, because we're all kind of isolated and using technology in ways we hadn't before, things that questions you have or issues that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, so far we have several people checking in with us, which is great. So it's wonderful to see some Eaton families, some community families. And so,
Awesome.
so far I haven't seen any questions come in, but please,
Okay.
if you're watching, make sure, feel free to ask in the comments and we'll get those addressed. So, Patty, some of the things that also talked about with these parental controls,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you have put together some resource lists as well. So we can look at sharing those out to the community.
Awesome. Yep. Yes, I do have a resource list that is an ongoing work in progress. So feel free to check back as I find things that I think would be helpful for you. I add them to that resource list. Typically, I will add them at the top. So if you check in from time to time and if you're looking for new things, they'll be at the top. So some of the things that are included in there are just instructions for setting up things like your kid's Xbox, or settings that you can consider if your kids have a smartphone or an iPad that you can set up just to make sure that they're using those devices in the most constructive way, and that they're not sort of getting sucked in and engaging more than would be healthy. And again, it's about balance, right? It's not about all or nothing. It's really about creating a healthy balance, and that's going to look different in every family.
All right, here's a comment that just came in from Signe.
Sure.
She said she's worried about how we'll manage through the summer when we don't have the school structure. She likes the idea of working on an acceptable plan with her teens. So any tips with that?
Yeah, I think that that's, a wonderful question. And like I said, I'm not that far from parenting through what you're describing. I think that was something that we had to think about as a family every summer when my kids were younger teenagers. But, again, I would say, think about what you want your child's day to look like overall. Think about the things that you want to build in. You want to build in some physical exercise. You want to build in probably some kind of chores around the house. We know that in the summertime, that's one of the most productive things that kids of any age can be engaged in, because it helps them build all kinds of different skills and, time management and just learning whatever skill you're teaching them so that they can complete the chores. One thing that I used to say with my kids is, you need to move a certain amount, you need to read, you need to do a couple of things for somebody else other than yourself during the day, and almost make it like a checklist, and make sure that you're building all those things into the schedule. And then, what kind of engagement do you want to have them have with technology at other points in the day? So it can either be a time schedule type thing, like certain blocks of time, or you can have them say, like, there are some parents, I think we've all seen this on social media, like, these are the things you have to do, and then I'll tell you the Wi-Fi password for today. So, putting those things in to make sure that you're having a balanced day, I think is really helpful. But it is hard.
I love that tactic. I've heard that from a few people of, you can do these things and earn the Wi-Fi password of the day. I love that. I think that's such a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Elle Cannon, who's one of our teachers. Hi, Elle. She also chimed in saying that some of our lower school students are following the same plan as they are doing now, reading every day, a little bit of writing, 1 page of math throughout the summer. Using our current plan is a good starting point. So, and that can be said, I think, from outside of Eaton as well. Trying to keep in and working with your school team, to see what you can, translate to your summer as well.
Absolutely. And I think too, a great opportunity in the summer is to think of like family projects as well. So some families are putting a garden in, because since everyone's home in the spring, and that's something that, you can build in some time every day for the family to work on that project together, or each kid in the family can have a certain responsibility. Some kids can weed on certain days, some kids can water on certain days. But thinking in terms of so you don't have to come up with a new fantastic idea every single day. Those ongoing projects can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Signe also had a question of what your thoughts are reading a physical book versus online.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. So one thing that we're learning because there's lots and lots of research being done about this right now, is that any kind of reading is better than not reading. So I would just start there. So reading a graphic novel, an ebook, even listening to an audiobook can be beneficial in many, many ways. For some kids, reading and listening at the same time is really helpful for lots of reasons. My 18-year-old son, who is a college student, for him, he found even now that reading and listening together is really helpful for him for lots of reasons. It helps with his attention. Having that multimodal input really helps him understand. So obviously you can't listen to a physical book. So for some kids, for some people, having that electronic capability is important. I would say, in general, I would expose kids to lots of different ways to read and listen to books, and that's probably your best bet. I don't think that one is necessarily better than the other. For some kids who have specific reading challenges, there are tools available reading electronically that aren't available with a physical book besides just listening. Things like Immersive Reader, which is a Microsoft product or a Microsoft feature for a lot of their software now, is really an amazing tool in terms of cleaning up the screen for kids who have attention issues or visual processing challenges. It does provide audio, which you can vary the speed, you can vary the amount that you're seeing on the screen at a time. There's also a Chrome extension that allows you to do all of those things, even if you're not using a Microsoft product to read with. So I would say, and if I'm going to double check the parent resources and make sure that stuff is in there, but if it isn't, I will add it today. Those kind of tools can be really, really helpful. And so if you have a child that has those particular challenges, I would say reading electronically is probably has some advantages. But at the same time, they're not always going to be able to do that everywhere they are in the world. So also having maybe a newspaper laying on the kitchen table, I know that's an old-fashioned idea, or having books in the house that they can just pick up and be exposed to, or sitting and reading with your child. Really, I mean, we think of doing that with little kids, but really, like, even if you have a child who's in middle school, reading, reading a chapter back and forth to each other, but having those books around all the time is really, I think, also helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And there's so many different, I know, apps like you mentioned out there, and access to. So whether you're an Eaton student or, at another private or public school, make sure you're checking with your teams, your public libraries. There's a bunch of different great resources for ebooks, for online readers, and other apps like Learning Ally, that can really be helpful for all ages.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really great. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions or comments at the moment. So I think we can probably wrap up. But as always, all of you that are tuning in today, or maybe you're watching a repeat of this later, we are always here for questions and comments, and want to be a good resource to you. So feel free to keep the conversation going after this. So make sure, like I said, anytime you want to reach out, feel free to do so. And Patty, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a wonderful experience and great information share. We've shared, we're going to keep sharing links out as well, and want to thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me to do it.
All right. Well, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.